Stranded in Pakistan for 15 years, speech and hearing impaired Geeta can now hope to be back in India. After Salman Khan's Bajrangi Bhaijaan had shed light on the ordeal of Indians who are Pakistanis trapped on either side of the border, the Indian government has now come to Geeta's rescue. The Indian External Affairs Minister Sushma said that she's determined to bring Geeta back. This a day after the Indian High Commissioner met her last evening in Karachi. The big question, of course, will Geeta come back home? Let's listen in to the Indian High Commissioner to Pakistan, TCA Raghavan, who I spoke to a little earlier. And joining me now is the Indian High Commissioner to Islamabad, Mr. TCA Srinivas Raghavan. Appreciate your joining us, Mr. Raghavan. The big question, of course, which is being asked here, after your meeting with Geeta yesterday, do you believe that we are closer to getting her back to the country, or was your meeting merely in the nature of a fact-finding mission?
Well, my visit to Karachi and to meet the girl and the place and to visit the place she lives in was, of course, in the nature of a fact-finding mission. But having been there and having had a reasonably detailed understanding of her recollections and her memories, I think we are much closer now to establishing her nationality status, and possibly thereafter the bigger question and the larger question of trying to locate her family.
Do we know which part of the country she came from? Did you get a sense that do we have enough information to really go by to know where she, to find her exact location in this country?
We don't have enough information about exact location. The girl, as you know, cannot speak. Was a small child when she when the story begins. So her recollections are vague. People she has been living with say that she has often pointed to Jharkhand in a map of India, and in fact she did the same with me when I was there. But I won't go too much by her recollections of where she could have come from. After spending some time with her and seeing her ability to recollect Devanagari characters, as also certain other information which we could obtain, I have no reasonable doubt that she came from India.
But does she want to come back to India? Does she want to, Mr. Raghavan, come back to India?
I believe so. I think she is comfortable, and the ED Foundation, I must say, has looked after her very well, and she is surrounded by people who are affectionate to her. But I think she now wants to move on, and she feels she doesn't fully belong anywhere except in India, and she doesn't want to go back to India.
Therefore, the big question, how do you bring her back? Are the Pakistani authorities more than willing to have her come back to India, or is this going to be a long drawn-out process?
I think that there is a certain consular process which will have to be gone through, but I hope we can expedite it.
The reason I'm asking you this is because I saw in your press conference yesterday a number of Pakistani journalists suggesting that there are Pakistani nationals who've strayed across onto the Indian side. What happens to them? Do you believe that Geeta then becomes a test case, dare I say, for a real live Bajrangi Bhaijaan?
You see, as you know, I went to Karachi following an intervention by our External Affairs Minister, Mrs. Sushma. I believe both governments do give a certain primacy to humanitarian issues. During the recent meeting in Ufa, for instance, our Prime Minister and Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif had given a very high priority to release of fishermen. There are also prisoners who are constantly being released. I think the humanitarian aspect in our bilateral dealings is there, and following the External Affairs Minister's intervention, it will have a greater primacy. in this particular case.
So there is nothing to indicate that she cannot return, that the Pakistanis are in some way, unless you identify the parents, they will not let her go. You got a sense that there is a genuine willingness to have her come back to India?
So, we have had no discussions with the government of Pakistan on this. As I said, there is a consular process which we will have to go through. Right. But as I said earlier, on humanitarian issues, both governments do cooperate and sometimes cooperate very well. You may recollect the press conference which the External Affairs Minister has given a few weeks ago when she spoke about the Indian and Pakistani navies cooperating to get people stuck in Yemen because of the conditions of civil war over there. Right. So such cooperation is not uncommon.